Good evening. I'm Sandy Thomson, the host of this show, which is called Life Ahead, and we call it that because what we do here is to try to provide you with education and information on various topics to help you make choices that you have to make in your life ahead. Get it? Did you get it?
I get it.
This is Brian Nugent. You probably know him if you watch us regularly. Brian is an elder law attorney, and he's on here very often to talk about legal issues. And I will tell you, by the way, you see a phone number down here at the bottom of the screen. And one of the things we love is to take phone calls from you. This is really your show. I just sit here and ask him questions until you call in with your topics. But we will encourage you to give us a call here, 969-2720. Brian will help you out with your legal issues. And if you just like stay on the phone and talk to us live, that's the best, because if if Brian has a question back to you, you're still right there on the phone that he can hear you and you can hear him. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. We have a phone operator in the control room, and they will take the calls initially, and they'll be very happy to take your question and type it up and send it out here to the studio to me on the teleprompter, and then I'll ask Brian. You'll take questions from...
Of course.
All right.
Yeah, it makes it more fun for Sandy, myself, and I think other audience members as well. So
exactly.
Please call in.
Exactly. And our main topic tonight is kind of a generic one, because Brian's been on so many times and we've talked about a lot of different legal issues, but sometimes you just need a little refresher, and that's... I'm thinking of this as kind of a pop quiz tonight.
That's fair. I'm ready.
Okay. We're going to talk about legal terms, terminology that we've used here often on the show as we've had legal discussions, and kind of refresh me and you about what that terminology means. We talked about this some last month, and we're going to continue that conversation. Okay, Brian. All right, let's talk out. We have a list here. Let's talk about, first of all, differences between Medicare and Medicaid. That can be very confusing.
Sure.
I wish the names were so different, it would be easier to remember.
Even sometimes I'll say Medicare when I intend to say Medicaid, and vice versa. But Medicare is a program that everyone is entitled to as they age. It could be if you have a special needs, or you're a little bit younger and have some issues, you could be on Medicare a little bit earlier. But generally, as we age, we are all able to apply for Medicare. And Medicare is a program that it's like an insurance in essence. It provides payment for your doctor's appointments. It could provide, depending upon what plan you have, it could provide payment for prescriptions. And so we all are entitled to Medicare as we age. Medicaid is
it's a government.
It's a governmental program.
Okay.
To which we're all entitled.
Okay.
That's right. We pay into, as we're working, we pay into a governmental fund that provides Medicare for all of us.
Okay.
And as you hit a certain age, you're able then to apply to be a Medicare recipient. And when you go to the doctor, you provide your Medicare card, as opposed to just an insurance card that you may have had when you were working, when you were younger, that may have been supplied through your employer, or if you were privately insuring yourself, it would take place of that card. Now, Medicaid is a very different program. Medicaid is a needs-based program. So first, depending upon where you are in the spectrum of life, your age, there are different types of Medicaid programs for you as you age. But generally, Medicaid is based upon your needs. What type of assets do you have? What type of income do you have? And if your assets are below a certain threshold, and if your income is below a certain threshold, you're able to receive Medicaid. And typically, in the arena of an elder law attorney, we are looking for Medicaid benefits in order to provide payment for someone's care as they're aging and maybe become infirm. So Medicaid could pay for an attendant to come to your home to actually provide one-on-one care for you.
Like a home health care.
Could be home health. Well, so we attendant care is different than home health.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah. So home health is typically paid for through Medicare. Medicaid would pay for a direct hands-on caregiver for you. Medicaid may pay for in your home someone to could be cleaning your home, could be doing your laundry, could be preparing a meal for you. But really the focus is on things like your personal care. So if you needed assistance with taking a shower or bathing, if you needed assistance with being reminded to take medication, if you needed assistance with getting up in the morning and dressed and getting your day started, if you needed assistance using the restroom, those attendants would help with all those activities of daily living that you may need to be able to stay successfully in your home. So, as I say, in the arena of elder law, we're looking at folks that we're getting folks ready for Medicaid, we're getting folks on Medicaid so that they can get that care in the home. Medicaid doesn't just pay for care in one's home. Medicaid could also pay for a stay at something called an assisted living facility, assuming that the assisted living facility, also called an ALF, if that ALF accepts Medicaid, Medicaid would pay for some or all of your stay, depending upon your income level. And so at that assisted living facility, you would have roof over your head, meals provided for you, and an attendant there at that facility, if you need them, to provide assistance with those activities of daily living. Medicaid also, if you qualify, also pays for nursing home stays. It would pay for memory care unit stays, again, assuming that the facilities at which you're staying, you're living, accept Medicaid. A majority do. There are some that don't. A majority do. So Medicare, to recap, go back over those two issues again, Medicare is a program that's like an insurance program, providing benefits for you, for your health care. Medicaid does that. It also is much more robust and also provides payment for your person and providing care for you as you age. Could be in your own home, could be an assisted living facility, could be at a nursing home or a memory care unit.
Now, if I, make sure that I understand it correctly, Brian, Medicare, you get those health care benefits, like you mentioned, some help with, different medical issues or prescriptions or whatever. But don't most people buy an extra insurance cover, either an Advantage plan or a supplement?
So Advantage or traditional Medicare. So Advantage plan is more managed health care. Traditional Medicare is actually a little bit more robust, typically provides more benefits. If you have a rehab stay at a nursing home, would pay for up to 100 days of that rehab, whereas an Advantage plan may pay 20 days for your rehab. What I would recommend to folks when you are going on Medicare, or if you're already on Medicare. So if you're going on Medicare for the first time, there are SHIP counselors in the state of Indiana, SHIP. You could Google that.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah,
and they could walk you through and make recommendations as to what type of a supplemental plan that you should be a part of. And then every year during the fall, October, November, maybe beginning of December, there is something called open enrollment, which gives you an opportunity to have your Medicare review and to see, should I stay on the same plan that I'm on, or should I deviate from that plan? So they would be looking at either yourself, or if you decide to reach out for assistance, they would be looking at things like, who's your doctor? Where are you receiving your care? What type of medications are you on? And then literally there's a software that you can type that information into, and then it starts to narrow the options that are best for you. But I would strongly encourage folks that are on Medicare not to just continue year after year rolling it over, the same plan that you've been on. I would encourage our listeners to actively have their Medicare review done on an annual basis to make sure that you have the most appropriate plan in place. I've seen clients that are paying a little bit too much, and after having had a Medicare review, they're saving money on a regular basis and an annual basis and getting a care that's appropriate for them. We don't want you to be buying
more insurance than you need.
More insurance than you need. Exactly right. So if you don't want to pay for A when you really need B, and you're going to save yourself $600-700 a year or more.
Well, I actually did that one time, made a change, and saved myself about, I think it was $300 or $400 a year. Same company. It was an Advantage plan.
Sure.
Okay, so it was additional insurance coverage to Medicare. And I just simply reviewed that, you can get a book.
Yes.
They can send you a booklet that you can compare all the different plans. And it was like, oh, well, this plan that I'm on has this, and this, which I have never used and probably never will use.
Right.
So what if I just switch to this plan, which covers anything that,
Right.
I likely need? And so there I saved some money just by reviewing it.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the books coming out anymore. It's typically online now, but any of the local senior centers are going to be able to assist you with that. They have volunteers that work, as I say, SHIP counselors that will help with that. But I would strongly encourage our listeners, if they're looking for either getting on Medicare the first time or they're going through the annual open enrollment, to take a good hard look at that supplemental plan.
Now, Art, as I recall, I think we've talked about SHIP, S-H-I-P, organization that helps people with insurance. Don't they help with taxes too, if you need, or no?
I'm not sure
Am
about
I
them
mistaken?
helping. Yeah, I don't know that they help with taxes. If they do, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I'm familiar with them in their capacity as assisting.
But there's not a cost for that.
There's no cost for that. That's a state program that's paid for by the state. And those folks go through training, and they're paid independently through the state. If I'm not mistaken, they're independent contractors. They're not employees, and they're paid based upon the work that they perform. And they're supposed to be doing so much education of the community. I don't know if it's month or quarterly or annually, but they also are actively involved in speaking engagements. So
to clubs and organizations and things. Aren't they often, Brian, maybe retired people that worked in the insurance business or finances or something, and they want to keep doing something?
Yeah, I have seen SHIP counselors at all different age levels.
Oh, okay.
One that I typically use, I would say, is probably in their 30s. So I don't think this individual is
didn't have a past
ready to be retired. But it wouldn't surprise me that if that happens. I do know of a SHIP counselor in a different county that is a retired educator and does an excellent job and is very well received.
So the moral of the story is then, we now know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, but maybe you need to do a little bit of research yourself to see what's right for you personally. And yet, as Brian said, there are lots of programs where you can get some complimentary assistance and advice as well. Okay, let's talk about, let's see, what's another term we've used? Probate. If you have to, and I know that you do a lot of estate planning for elder people as well. What does probate mean? And is it true? You hear people say, I want to avoid probate. Should you be working toward that or no?
Well, probate is the process whereby if I have a will or if I've passed away without a will and I have assets that are above a certain level, for example, in Indiana, if I have assets above $100,000, I need to go through the probate process in order to transition those assets to the individual or individuals that will be receiving them. So if I have a will, the attorney, I suppose you could probate your own, a loved one's estate, but typically you'd be hiring an attorney. The attorney would take the will to court, would they call it spreading the will of record, and then ask for an estate to be opened. If a person has died without a will, we have something called intestate succession, and there's a statute that indicates who receives those assets if you haven't pre-planned and made sure that you had a will in place. So the probate process is whereby you've opened an estate, either with or without a will. The court will then issue something called letters, letters testamentary or letters of administration, depending upon whether or not you do have a will or you don't have a will. And it's those letters that allow an individual to access the deceased person's checking account, savings account, 401k, IRA, brokerage account. So it allows that person to access those things. It's telling the person that's holding the money, it's okay to speak with you. The court has appointed them, and then the personal representative, the executor that's representing the beneficiaries of the estate, they're able to access that money. They draw that money out. They may put it into an estate checking account. And then they're also advertising in the newspaper, indicating if anybody believes that the deceased owed them money, they can file a claim in the estate. Those claims need to be filed within 90 days, 3 months of the person's death here in Indiana. And then if those claims are appropriate to be paid, the executor, personal representative, pays them. If they're not appropriate to be paid, they object. You may have a hearing. You may not have a hearing, depending upon whether or not the claimant wants to fight that. And then once those debts are satisfied, if an individual has a tax return that needs to be prepared, we file the tax return for both the deceased individual, possibly the estate, depending upon what assets we have in the estate. We may be selling real estate, so we're liquidating those estate assets, and then we're transferring it to those individuals that are appropriate beneficiaries. So it could be that your spouse receives money, your children receives money. It could also be that charitable entities, maybe a religious organization that you want to remember, an organization that sponsors a cause that you feel strongly about. We're distributing those monies to those folks. Then when all that's distributed, the attorney would request the court to close out the estate, to close out that probate estate, and then the individual is released from being the personal representative, the executor, and everything's taken care of. But to answer your question about avoiding probate, typically the reason that people want to avoid probate, and frankly, most attorneys are trying to assist their clients in avoiding probate if at all possible, is that there's an expense that comes with it. You have to pay the attorney to go through that probate, that estate administration process. It's also public, so if somebody wants to be a nosy neighbor and look at the will and what the will said and who's getting this and who's getting that, they're able to do so. And it takes time. Estates are open 6 months, 12 months, plus or minus. That's not hard for an estate to be open a year. And so when you're avoiding probate, we're getting assets out in a different way. Maybe there's a beneficiary designation on an asset, or we're using a trust, et cetera. If we can avoid probate, we're getting rid of that length of time before the money is distributed. We're getting rid of the legal expense, the advertising expense, et cetera. We're also keeping it more private so that the public can't see what you had put together in your estate planning. So that's why you would normally want to avoid probate. Cost, time, and it's not public.
All right. And and if you're going before a probate judge, you've got court costs, whatever.
Exactly.
We have a phone call here that I want to make sure we get answered for you. This is Kathy. Kathy has called in, and here's what she said. I had introduced you, Brian, as an elder law attorney, and Kathy wants to know what is the benefit of having an elder attorney versus a regular attorney.
So,
That's a big question.
That's a big question. But I think what you're asking, Kathy, is there are attorneys that do estate planning and there are attorneys that do elder law. And elder law and estate planning are very different. So elder law, well, let me start with estate planning. Estate planning is you are strictly planning for what happens with your assets at the time that you pass away. So I may write a will, I may write a trust as an estate planning attorney, and I don't see you for 20 years, 30 years, and we're done. We may do a probate, or rather we may prepare a power of attorney, healthcare rep designation, HIPAA waiver, those types of ancillary documents. An elder law attorney does all of that and so much more. So the elder law attorney not only is planning for what happens with your assets at the time of your passing, they're also looking at protecting assets during your lifetime as you either, if you're a special needs person, supplemental needs person, but we're also planning for as you age, how do we protect assets and how do we get those benefits to provide payment for your care as you age. The top of the show, we were talking about Medicaid versus Medicare. So an elder law attorney may be protecting your assets, sheltering those either in advance or at the time that you need the care. And so once those assets are sheltered, then it may be that elder law attorney is securing benefits on your behalf to provide payment for your care for you as you age, or as I say, if you're a special needs person, have some other concerns that require some public assistance to provide care for you. Not only would an elder law attorney be familiar with handling matters with Medicaid, elder law attorneys are typically comfortable handling things with the Veterans Administration. That's a very common topic that comes up with our seniors as they age. So to answer your question, Kathy, I would encourage you, if you're looking for someone to do your estate planning, I don't know where you are in the spectrum of life, if you're a younger person or a more mature person, but I would encourage you to maybe speak with an elder law attorney, you know that you're going to be getting that estate planning in place, but there would be a greater depth of knowledge about protection of assets, securing benefits for you as you age, and should you need that help if you have some ongoing medical issues.
And I know that I think we've talked before, maybe when people have called in, that a lot of maybe even young families, a young couple decides to go to an elder law attorney to get things in place like guardianship, or if they're going to be taking a long trip and they want to make sure that things are in line, a power of attorney in case they need finances for the kids while they're gone, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So elder law attorney, it wouldn't mean that all of my an elder law attorney's clients need to be 65 and older. No, heavens no. An elder law attorney could have a client at 18, could have a minor in a guardianship, as you were alluding to, Sandy. So the term elder law attorney shouldn't suggest that if I'm not of a certain age that I can't use them. What I'm saying is that estate planning, there's a place for estate planning for sure, but if you want a much more robust knowledge of estate planning, benefits, protecting assets, assisting you as you go through the spectrum of life, you might consider using an elder law attorney.
I want to talk about trust,
yes,
Brian. We bring that up quite often, and you've talked about special needs trust, all kinds of trust. Define trust, and then the difference between a revocable and irrevocable trust.
Sure. So I'd like to say that a trust is in essence a giant contract. So you're saying, I'm going to write this contract, and the contract says, inside the trust, we're going to hold assets. So an asset is a home, could be an asset, a life insurance policy could be an asset, checking account, savings account, so anything of a value. We're going to put that into the name of the trust. And there are generally three categories of entities that are involved in those trusts. We have someone called a settlor or grantor, trust maker. That's the person that made the trust. So that's the client normally coming to the attorney. The next category would be someone called a trustee. So the trustee is the person that's responsible for managing the assets in the trust and applying the terms of that trust, that contract. So in the third category is something called a beneficiary. So who can benefit from or who can enjoy the money in that trust? So the trustee is reinvesting the money in that trust. If there's income that's being earned and the contract says this beneficiary is supposed to receive that income, the trustee's responsibility would be to write a check or give the money either to the beneficiary or for the benefit of the beneficiary. So
in that trust, would there be verbiage or written considerations like, okay, the trustee they're giving out this money as needed, but maybe you can specify when you set up the trust that grandson can only receive so much money when he's 18 and so much more when he's 25, that kind of thing. So you, as the writer of a trust, can make decisions.
The settlor or the grantor, the person that's having that trust prepared, you can. I will say to clients, dream big. Like, what is it that you want? Just say it, and say to the attorney that you're working with in your plain English. This is what I want to get accomplished. I want to make sure that it doesn't ruin my child, and my child says, oh, I'm inheriting this money at 20, I'm going to drop out of college and live on this money. So you may say, well, they're going to get the money at ages 25, 30, 35 over time. So they get multiple bites at the apple. If they happen to spend the money on the first bite, the second bite, they may think a little bit harder about it and not spend the money so quickly. You could indicate that the money is to be used for your education, the money is to be used for health care, the money is to be used for a trip around the world. Whatever you want to put inside that trust, your attorney is going to prepare that on your behalf. Sandy, you'd asked me about the difference between revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts. So trusts are a giant category. And in general, if you divide that category in half and you say one half are revocable and one half are irrevocable, a revocable trust is like putty. You can change it, you can manipulate it, you can establish it today, get rid of it tomorrow, and create it again on Friday. So a revocable trust is like putty. You can do with it whatever you want to. Typically, revocable trusts are used to avoid that probate, that estate administration process. You'll generally hear the phrase a living trust or a revocable living trust.
Yeah.
An irrevocable trust is the polar opposite of a revocable trust. It's permanent, set in stone, can't be changed. So we would use these types of trusts if we're looking at protecting assets, so a third party couldn't get to those assets. That it might protect you against litigation. It might protect your assets from a nursing home stay, and so those are types of reasons that we would use irrevocable trusts. And then we have trusts for individuals that are special needs, so that the money is put into that trust. It can be used for their benefit, but it doesn't prohibit them from getting access to public benefits like Medicaid.
And that's all, something you have to watch carefully and get legal advice on, so you don't put them out of the categories of getting some of that federal aid. I'm so glad that you've all been with us tonight here for Life Ahead. And we're here every Wednesday night at 7:30. We hope to see you again next week with a new topic. Good night. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by
Nugent Law, specializing in estate planning and elder care law, emphasizing independence and quality of life. Serving Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. More information at nugentlaw.com.